Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 13, Episode 47. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Glad you guys are back with us here for this Monday, this victory Monday. Been a while since we last said that, as the Pittsburgh Steelers get the win over New Orleans Saints on Sunday, 20-10, to push Pittsburgh's record to 3-6 on the season. Dave, how you doing?
Doing good. Did you not get several of my tweets last night? I was tweeting about Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom, the Greg Kinn band, all those things that probably meant absolutely nothing to you. I think on that Sunday Night Football, I think whoever controls the music on the outros, on kind of that bumper music, I don't know what you kids call it these days, but and it's not new. It's been like this for like several years now. Whoever they have dialing that stuff up, I think they just do a tremendous job of some of the songs that they use there, and a lot of people just probably don't think much about it, but that kind of stuff, with my music background and all like that, that kind of stuff I like tying in. And here's the kind of the significance. I know you probably don't know who the Greg Kinn band is, but on one of the outros, I think it was what was in the first half or early second half there. It's the Greg Kinn band, and the name of the song is the Breakup Song, and it has several kind of connotations. I think the guy meant for that bumper music, because the whole breakup song, remember the whole, Jimmy Garoppolo, San Francisco thing this past off season and all like that, how it looked like they were going to break up. So A, I think that was appropriate there. And B, the Greg Kinn band is from San Francisco. So that had several kind of tie-in kind of connotations there. But boy, have I gone down a tangent to open things up there. But and Mutual Omaha's Wild Kingdom, that was way before your time. But I think that used to be on like Sunday night, and either right before, right after Wide World of Disney on NBC, I think. And what that was you'll have to Google a lot of it, but you had the old guy, animal experts, Marlon Perkins and Jim, I think, was it Colbert? I can't remember. It's Colburn, I think. Go out to the wild on kind of these safaris and, into the swamps or whatnot, and kind of have these, wild animal adventures and all like that. And it was a show to watch. I don't know, I guess that was late 70s, early 80s there. And Marlon Perkins was the old gray hair old man, and he'd send Jim he'd ask Jim to do these unthinkable things, while he narrates on the side. He's asking Jim, go down in there in that pit and go get that alligator, or go get this wildebeest, go wrestle this wild boar and bring him up here so we can take a look at him. And it was the running kind of joke as you got older was, man, Marlon Perkins, owes Jim a lot of apologies. He did Jim wrong all those times. But Google some of that stuff, and for you people that are a little bit older, like I am, you're welcome. And for you younger people that don't like this rant, get off my lawn.
I think we call that a tone setter for the show today.
Go.
Dave, you could have asked me to either guess those references or go to the moon, and I would have started strapping rockets to my back, because I had no idea what you were talking about last night. But thank you for filling me in.
It's the joys of being old.
All right, let's talk Steelers as they get a big win. We'll talk about the game here in a moment. I think maybe the best game Pittsburgh's played this year. Granted, the bar, I guess, has been set pretty low now, a 3-6 team, but still really impressive overall coming out of the bye on a lot of different facets. Let's briefly talk about everything that happened prior to Sunday's kickoff, and there was a lot occurring. Pittsburgh gets one star defensive player back in TJ Watt, and in the same breath, they lose another star defensive player in Minkah Fitzpatrick. Sitting here Saturday, just waiting for the news on TJ Watt to officially be activated. I'm pretty happy, waiting for the official word of activation. And then all of a sudden, report comes in, Minkah Fitzpatrick has appendicitis. He will not play against the Bengals. A little bit later, report comes out he did undergo emergency surgery for his appendix and obviously missed yesterday's game, and his status very much in doubt for Week 12 against the Bengals. So from a roster move perspective, Pittsburgh activating TJ Watt, ruling out Minkah Fitzpatrick. They did elevate Elijah Riley only to make him inactive for whatever weird reason, and then also newly traded for cornerback William Jackson III, placed on IR. So welcome William Jackson to Pittsburgh and welcome to IR. So those are the overall roster moves to talk about leading up to this game.
Yeah, an eventful Saturday for sure there. And you're thinking, all right, you're like you said, you're looking forward to getting TJ Watt, and you know that official news is coming, and lo and behold, you lose your second best player on the defensive side of football, and you wonder if you can't win for losing sometimes there. But I'll ask this question. I know what most people would probably answer. If I would have told you would have had your choice for TJ Watt for that game or Minkah Fitzpatrick, obviously too, knowing that you're getting DeMonte Casey back, for this game as well too, which one are you going to take? And I think, and it's no disrespect to Minkah Fitzpatrick whatsoever, but I think you're taking Watt 9 out of 10 times there, right?
I think so. It was a real, and let me make a more topical reference, a real Thanos. What did it cost? Everything. What did it cost to get TJ Watt back? It cost Minkah Fitzpatrick, but certainly Watt's impact felt from literally the first snap of that game yesterday and throughout the rest of the day. So, we'll see when Minkah can return. Our Dr. Mel has a good article this morning on Steelers Depot that kind of goes through the surgery. She's basically saying sooner than later for him. It sounds like, and we'll see that, we don't know for sure, but probably the Monday night game, November 28th, so 2 weeks from now against the Colts, seems to be the best target date, but we'll see what Mike Tomlin has to say tomorrow.
Yeah, nowadays, don't they do that thing kind of laparoscopically, I think. Right. And like when they fished my gallbladder out of me many moons ago. Now I know what the gallbladder was like, I don't know, 3 or 4 real small incisions, and they kind of fish that thing out and staple you up and off you go. Now, in the old days with that surgery, I think they used to split you open like a mullet, and then obviously the recovery time was a lot longer. Now, even going all the way back to 2006 would have been Roethlisberger. He had that done. He had his done, I think, on a Sunday, and then was back for what did he miss? One game in that situation, or was it 2 or 2 games in that situation there? He was back for the game against the Jaguars. I know that there, but it wasn't. I don't think it was 2 full weeks away, out from him having that surgery. I think it just depends on the individual, right? And I think in so many words, I think that's the way kind of Dr. Mel has it probably framed as well too. There, Jerry Dulac reported 7 to 10 days. I mean, look, Sunday would obviously be Sunday against the Bengals would be 1 week and 1 day. That might
roughly, yeah.
That might be kind of pushing it there, but look, he was out at the other pregame and walking around, and for whatever that's worth there. But if you had to guess, or if I had to guess, I would say he probably misses the Bengals game and then back for the one after that.
Agreed. That seems to be the most conservative and most likely route right now. I don't know exactly when Ben had the surgery in 2006. I assume right before week 1. He missed the Dolphins game, was back for the September 18th game. So that game was actually a little bit later in the calendar. So that was the timetable for Ben. But as you said, each individual is different, and we'll have to wait and see. Again, so strong suspicion Minkah misses week 12 or week 11 and then comes back in week 12 against the Colts.
Here's what I have on Ben. I put on Twitter the other day. Okay, he had the appendectomy on September 3rd and made it back to play against the Jaguars on September 18th.
Okay, so 15 days.
15 days. So I think that would put that sounds like a good possibility. 2 weeks for Minkah then.
It does.
2 weeks and 1 day, I guess it would be then.
Real quick note on the inactive list, not any major surprises, I suppose. Although, again, bringing up Riley just to make him inactive, I don't know if they wanted to check on KZ pregame, make sure everything was good there, and just have options considering Minkah was unavailable. But Riley inactive, the typical inactives littered the list, and Mason Rudolph and Kendrick Green, Mark Robinson, Akella Witherspoon held out with a hamstring injury, also inactive in this game. And am I missing anybody else? I might be from that list.
There were 6 in total, right? Because of Riley being up, and Riley was one of them. And I think he hit the other 5, right?
I think so. So that's the list there. And again, we'll hear from Tomlin on Tuesday. From an in-game injury standpoint, seems to be minor overall. I think Pickett's had that ankle injury that's been bugging him, limped around a little bit, but did not miss a snap. Najee Harris briefly checked for a concussion at the end of his 36-yard run, but he was okay, returned to the game. Most notably, Miles Jack, who did not practice for most of the week, not until Friday, with a knee injury, dressed but did not play in this game. Robert Spillane getting the nod over him. Mike Tomlin telling reporters after the game that Jack was ready to go, but they wanted to go with Spillane. He just was more ready overall, healthier overall. And because the Eagles defense, frankly, barely was on the field in this game, there really was no need to ever rotate and give Spillane or Devin Bush a breather.
Yeah, that was it. It sounds like they probably could have used him in break glass in case of emergency, but glad that they didn't. And props to you for living your life right, for only having 49 defensive snaps to have.
Charting came in last night. I'm good to go.
Yeah, you had me nice information to use this morning. I appreciate that.
There you go. Let's use that information, Dave. Talk about this game 2010 over the Saints. Big headline here: Pittsburgh rushing for 217 yards in this game.
How many games was that? 3?
What's that?
How many games was that? 3 to get that many yards on the ground?
It's what it feels like. Yeah. It's been 92 games since they last had a 200-yard collective team rushing performance. That was in 2016. That snow game against the Buffalo Bills when Le'Veon Bell went off, and so it really was a collective team effort. Two main takeaways offensively is that ground game and the explosive plays. I mean, we have some crazy stats to talk about when it comes to their explosive play game. That's what we've talked about the entire year. We sound like broken records saying you got to have the big play, hadn't had the big play, finally got it in major ways, multiple ways last afternoon against the Saints.
Yeah, if I would have come out of a coma and missed yesterday's game, and you told me this morning that the Steelers not only had 6 explosive plays, but 4 of them came on the ground. I'm sorry, I wouldn't have. As much as I trust you, Alex, I wouldn't have believed you. I would have had to seen that. Look, I mean, just a quick kind of overview to this game. Before we do talk more detailed stuff and stats like that. This is exactly how we said that the Steelers were going to have to try to win some games this year, right? Defense, strong defensive play, get a couple of takeaways, get a couple of sacks, run the football well, and have a few explosive plays in there, and not turn the football over on offense. And that was kind of the outlined, way that we thought that this team would win some games this year. So kudos to them on that. And the explosive plays, not only do you need them in today's NFL, and it was good to get 6 of them. How many times have we said, over the years, I mean, when you get them on the ground, even, it's like stealing at that. And for them to have, 4 on the ground like that, I think, and obviously one of them was a scamper by Kenny Pickett. One of them was a George Pickens in the round, and then one each by Najee and Jalen Warren there. Anytime you get 20, I believe anytime you get 20 yards on the ground like that, it usually serves as a tone setter as well, too, that you are able to run the football in games like that. And I thought it was huge. And looking back, and I know we immediately went to try to look to find out when was the last time this team had 4 explosive runs in one game. Mm-hmm. Stathead goes all the way back to 1994, and I could not find any instance of the Steelers with 4 or more explosive runs in one game. Now, I think you went a little bit, you went researching a little bit further back than that, right?
Yeah, I mean, just to lay that stat out again, because to me that is the craziest stat of the weird you could offer after this game. Pittsburgh came into this game without a single rush this season of 20 plus yards. They leave this game with 4 of them, and that's the first time that's happened in a game in at least roughly 30 years, probably longer. The only other instance I can conclusively find of it, and I'm sure it's happened a couple times, was in 1979. They had at least 5 in a big win, 51-35. Over the Browns, but I have not been able to find the last time that happened. It had to have been, 1993 or earlier, which is just incredible for where this team was at coming into this game and where they leave it.
So what was the end of that again? It dropped out.
I dropped out. It's incredible for where this team was at in terms of 0 explosive runs first 8 games, and they leave it with 4, which has not happened in roughly at least 30 years.
And look, and I guess we should have probably included this in the setup there. The Saints were very, very banged up and on the short week, and in a little bit of a couple of surprises there, I think, even with the inactives, even though Marcus Davenport was dinged up heading into the week, we knew they weren't going to have likely to have Warner in there at linebacker there. We knew they probably weren't going to have Lattimore, but even safety Marcus May was scratched from this game as well. But just the general, that offensive line for the Steelers looked very fresh yesterday, and they looked motivated to get some jumps off of the football. And I thought, of the 2 running backs, Jaylen Warren obviously made some contributions, had 3 catches for 40 yards in the game on top of it. I thought that was Jaylen Warren's biggest contribution to the game, because quite honestly, you look at, Najee's 20 runs and Jaylen Warren's 9 runs. Najee's not only statistically better, but a higher percentage of successful runs as well, too. I think Najee had 9 of 20 successful runs in that game, and I think Warren had 1 of 9 successful runs in that game. But it just in general, it felt, and look, kudos to kind of sticking to that run as well too, because the Steelers get out to 10-0, and then they let them back into that. You kind of wondered, man, are they going to start trying to pass the ball more? But they had a very nice balance, I thought, of run and pass throughout the entire game. And I think both of us even highlighted late last night on Twitter that in that last drive, in that gotta have it, gotta run the clock out kind of drive there, they ran the ball a ton, and I think 5 of their successful runs of the game came in that final possession there. And you don't let the other team back on the field in that situation. You put the win away.
Talk about a 4-minute offense. They get the ball back, up 2 scores, 4:23 left. They have 10 plays. They were 10 runs, and they never give the ball back. And that is a picture-perfect, old-school 4-minute approach and ability to close that game out. So run game, useful start to finish. I thought the line blocked well. I thought Harris got downhill more. I thought they used some pistol to create that downhill north-south running game a little bit, which I think was effective. We'll have to go back and check the tape on some of that. But overall, getting big plays, staying on schedule, having success on first down, all the boxes you want to check, this team checked.
Yeah, now, on that explosive run by Najee, backside of kind of the split zone, and about halfway through that, he breaks a tackle, and lowers his shoulder and gets extra yards after that. So even though the escape out the back door was, not contested, he was contested about halfway through that run, and he ran through it and got even more yards on top of it there. So is this a sign of things to come? With the running game, we'll see. But this is kind of the stuff this offense needs to prevent Kenny Pickett from having to drop back 40 something times in a game there. There were some situations where I was kind of hoping they'd run it a little bit more, to be quite honest with you, but it is what it is. And to see them have the success that they had, you'd probably like to see a little greater run success rate than they had, because it was a 9, as we said, with the running backs alone. I guess it would be 10 of 29, right? That would be the number from your running backs. You want to see that. And what was Watt? Watt had 2 carries, right?
Yeah, I think both were successful. Yeah, right? They're both conversions.
Right, both of those were successful. So what does that put us at? 9 and 1 is 10. 12 of 31. Is that right?
I think so. I'm losing the math here, but I trust you.
All right, but 12 of 31 successful runs out of your backs. You'd like to see that higher, But for what it was, and to have some of those runs for 3 because one was, I think, a scamper by Kenny. Be explosive runs, successful like that. Those help make up for a few of those runs that were not successful, if you know what I mean.
Sure. And again, I'll have to check the tape, but I imagine there was probably some good, downfield blocking that helped spring some of those explosive runs. I know on George Pickens, there was a good block on the perimeter by Pat Frymuth, and even Deontay Johnson had a really high effort stock block on the corner, which is often a big reason why those runs become 20 plus. I know that on Harris's run, he didn't make the block, but Kenny Pickett sprinting downfield, just trying to help, potentially searching for somebody. Those are the things that become required to really get your run game out of the mess, the bog that it's been in. It's really that the little things, the effort things to create an explosive run game. And then Najee Harris running to his style. I loved him breaking that tackle, getting downhill, just being the big dude that you are, having that size, that frame, that power, not trying to go around, go through. And that allowed him to rip off that extra additional 15, 20 yards on that run.
Yeah, look, that was his probably best game since the Browns game late last year, right?
100%. And I thought, just real quick side note, his pass protection was great. I mean, he had an early pickup on third down. He ID'd a blitzer late that helped keep Kenny clean. So I thought his pass
sawed that one off, right?
Yeah, on that cut, because he started to go to his right, maybe just to either leak out or look for work to his right, and then saw, I think, a delayed blitz up the middle and came back and cut it and did a great job there.
Right. So I mean, all the narrative about him and that foot injury, that's now behind, right?
I think so. He looks good to me. And we talked about that. They looked, it didn't feel like that was the number one issue. I mean, it certainly played a role earlier in the season, but the longer you get away from that, certainly with the benefit of the bye, can't be an excuse, can't be a talking point anymore. To what you said earlier, can this team continue that? I mean, they're not going to run for 200 again. And if they do, then I'll gladly be wrong about that. But we'll see. They got to continually and consistently put good running games together. You have an opportunity to do that. They'll face a tough run defense in the Bengals, but this was a great start, great confidence booster.
I'm not going to say that they won't run for 200 again this season because of some of the teams.
Sure.
Maybe that they play. But this next week against the Bengals, if you do that, if you run for 200 against the Bengals, you should win that game.
Any game, you should win if you rush for 200. So, but certainly it's now about building upon that and not just having one good game and then kind of going back to same old Steelers after this. But kudos to the line. They got to get some love as well. I have to go again, check the tape. I thought Mason Cole played well in the middle. He's been, I think, solid this season. I'm sure the guards, in terms of the run blocking, blocked well as well. So just a good team collective effort.
Yeah, good to see it. I mean, as we mentioned, for them to win some of these games, you're going to have to strike that good balance with run and pass, and you're going to have your running game do what they did. And once again, I think those explosive plays help make up for kind of a below average run success rate, if you will.
And of course, when you're running the ball that effectively overall, you're possessing the ball, and Pittsburgh had the ball for almost 39 minutes, the longest they've held the ball for. And I forget the exact stat that I had. If I can maybe pull it up here. And last time they had that great time of possession was 2014 against the Titans.
Wow.
And so been a long time coming there. They were good on possession downs, 9 of 17 on third down. So that was, of course, big, plus a fourth down conversion as well. Need to be better in the red zone overall. If you're asking why this team was only, held to its seemingly cap of 20 points per game offensively, you have 2 missed field goals. You're 2 of 5 in the red zone, 6 sacks. Those things have to get cleaned up, but still, overall numbers far more encouraging than what we've seen to me at any game, any point this season.
One of my 5 keys kind of probably flew under the radar there. Use the force on the unforced. And talking about unforced penalties, and you and I have talked about that the other day, right? About 21 unforced penalties that this team has had on offense, being the delay of games, ineligible downfields, the false starts, the illegal shifts, the illegal formations, and how I think the stat I had on that was 11 of those 21 drives were effectively killed by some of those unforced penalties there. And it just felt like, okay, you got the bye week to kind of work on this. Holding penalties happen, those kind of things are, but the unforced ones are really what kind of have been driving you crazy. And I'm sure in that offensive meeting room as well, too. They had just one yesterday, and I think that was an illegal formation. So, what did the team have? 3 penalties in total? And just one of them, I think, on the offense. I think one was on special teams on James Pierre for fair catch interference. And then you had the one on the hit by Casey over there on the sideline. And the only other one, unfortunately, it was an unforced one, but it was just one. And you didn't see this team offensively shoot themselves in the foot because of penalties that way.
And that one on the offense, I don't think would be on the offensive line. It was for Pat Frymuth, I guess, being covered up. So that's a receiver or Frymuth making the mistake there of not being off ball, one of those guys. So really, to me, the O-line committed 0 penalties yesterday, which is a big departure from where this team had been at.
Absolutely. And hope that can continue as well.
And while it seems very simple, it's such a key to this game. Took care of the football. 0 turnovers. Won the turnover battle, +2. New Orleans came into this game the most giveaways of any offense. They had the worst turnover differential of any team in football, -10. Now they are -12. And so I think Kenny Pickett did not play a good game overall. He used his legs, and that quarterback mobility can be so important for quarterbacks as they have games where they struggle and games where they don't see things super cleanly. But the best thing Kenny Pickett did yesterday was take care of the football.
Yeah, and him using those legs. I mean, he had 50-something yards rushing in that game, and of course, one of those was an explosive scamper on top of it there, and that helped kind of keep some drives alive there. At least, if you're going to take off with the football, you're getting yards with it, and you maybe not forcing one in some situations. He did have a lot of throwaways in the first half, right? I think 3 of his first, I don't know, what was it, 12 pass attempts or something like that were throwaways there. But you look at the top, the all important turnovers and explosive play stat, the TOX stat, TOX, and the differential there, 8-0.
Wow.
If you would have woke me up from that same coma and told me that after telling me that they had 4 explosive runs, I wouldn't have believed that from you either there. But you dominate a TOX stat like that, you damn sure better win the game, and they obviously did. So yeah, no turnovers. You got a quarterback, that can extend and run, if need be, and get good yardage on top of it. You had the running game, clicking at some points there, and yeah, I mean, and no unforced penalties on the offensive line. You add all those things up there, and good day for the offense as a whole.
Now, I think Pickett, as a passer overall, about his accuracy was a bit spotty, especially earlier in that game. I know that he got into a ton of trouble on 3rd down when basically every single 3rd down that wasn't 3rd and short, the Saints would line up in a really sim pressure, mug look, and they'd sometimes rush, they'd sometimes bail out. And I thought Pickett struggled to really, feel comfortable in those situations. And obviously that's a pretty uncomfortable situation to be in the first place. So I thought he kind of struggled in those 3rd down situations whenever he saw a lot of pressure and really wasn't sure who was coming and who was dropping. So again, didn't play a great game overall, but he didn't compound it by making any sort of fatal error that could have cost his team in this game.
What's that route that they run? That new route that they run, where they work towards the middle of the field on a. It's kind of a quick route. I don't know.
Starts with an S, I think.
Yeah, like a. I don't know, slants or lance.
Yeah, that's it.
Slant. That's it. Man, how good was it to see those?
Yeah, I have a little snarky title today for my breakdown talking about some of those slants. I said first there was fire and then there were slants. Man discovered fire and the Pittsburgh Steelers discovered slants yesterday. And I mean, they weren't, massive weapons. There was no 50-yard touchdown off of it. But I mean, it was just good to see. They were used in third down. They were used in red zone that, helped create touchdowns and field goals and just at least had the attempt to have some yards after catch opportunities. And we've been talking about that. Not only just general middle of the field stuff, but also just, giving guys chances to make plays after the catch, because so much of this offense had been sideline based, out routes and comebacks and sprint outs and things like that, curls, and not really allowing a guy like Deontay Johnson in particular chances to run after the catch where he can really excel. Granted, he does like to go backwards still, which is a whole another talking point there. But in principle, I think a better game plan overall.
I think I have it calculated at something like 97 or 96, 97. I forget what it was. It was mid 90s of yards after catch in this game on 18 completions. That's a little more, right around 5 yards yards after the catch overall in that. You're not going to stop the presses with any numbers like that, but it sure beats the heck out of the 3-point something yard average after the catch they've been getting. And there were instances, and that doesn't even count the pass interference on one of those slants, or the hold, I guess it was on who was it, Paulson Adebo. That if you hit that, if he doesn't get held and you hit that might be a house call right there. And what kind of yak do you get after that? So that's kind of hidden yardage that doesn't show up. But it was good to see, and I thought Kenny was pretty accurate overall on the slant throws.
Yeah, he was. It was a third down to Pickens that was on the money to move the sticks. I thought he was probably at his best on those type of throws. And you're right. I mean, that was a play where, and I included that in my article, my film room breakdown, that penalty there, because if that penalty does not occur, that DB does not grab Deontay, that is going to be a big play. And I thought, Pittsburgh really went after some of their young DBs, Adebo and Alontae Taylor, who I thought had a good game, had a couple of big hits, but they really went after some of those young cornerbacks on the outside.
I thought there was maybe at least one more slant that Kenny should have thrown in that game, down in the red zone there. You got that's as open as you're going to get, I think, to Pickens.
Yeah, I saw you tweet that one to us this morning. I haven't gone back and seen it, haven't gone through the end zone view, haven't gone through the progression, so I'm not quite sure. But I know it'd be a tight throw, but as you said, the red zone usually is nothing but tight window type throws.
Right, and you want talked about wanting to see him better in the red zone there, but I think that's one. I think even when you see the end zone view on that, that's one that ball's got to get out. Okay. Right there. And did you see it in your DMs? Did you see the link to the play or what? Yeah,
I saw it when you DM'd it this morning. That's when I first saw it. I haven't gone back through the tape or started my tape searching yet, but I'll have to go back and check that one.
I think there was probably, and I made it through, I think almost 3.5 quarters of a quick rundown of the all 22 on offense there. There are probably 3 or 4 throws that I think Kenny should have turned loose in this game.
Okay. I know just off the top, I mean, I think one of his first throws of the game downfield to Pickens, I mean, he drove with the football, but it was behind him. And that was a clear miss. Mm-hmm. And so I just got off to a bad start and it didn't get a whole lot better.
Yeah. But on the flip side, I thought on that out and up to Najee, I don't think the TV angle did it as good a justice as far as the ball placement on that. I mean, it's still going to be a tough catch on that, but the ball placement of where he put that, I mean, it's right there in Najee's hands. I think the trade, I think whoever was trailing on that made a good play through the football as well too. But as far as the accuracy of that throw goes, I mean, I thought that was on the money. I don't think you can run out there and drop it in there in any better than that.
No, that was good. That was a good throw, and that was Caden Ellis, the pride of Idaho.
Okay.
Go Vandals! They're rolling this year.
Roll potatoes
on coverage there. Yeah, but no, I thought. I mean, in moments the accuracy was good. I thought earlier rather than later the accuracy was worse for Pickett, and just again some of those third down pressure packages didn't respond all that well.
Right. The key thing, once again, and Mike Tomlin hit on this after the game, you didn't turn the football over. So if you sacrifice, I guess, you just want to see him start anticipating and throwing some of these guys open a little bit more.
Yeah, and frankly, just convert more. I mean, 2 of 5 in the red zone is not where you want to be. And Pickett right now has more rushing touchdowns, 3, than passing touchdowns this season. And so there's still going to be a point where points are going to matter, and you're going to need to have more than 20 per game. That was enough yesterday. The defense did an unbelievable job, but you can't be maxed out at 20 per game. I'm not complaining. I'm happy with the win. The ground game was fantastic, solid quality win overall, but things to look for, things to work on, always those things to talk about. Got to get past that 20-point barrier. He's
got a good knack for the quarterback sneak as well, too. Very good knack. Continues that. Him recognizing down there on the goal line, kind of this shift inside, and they kind of clogging that up. And I got a good screenshot of the end zone view of that. And I mean, it's a wide open crease that he was able to duck right through without issue on that touchdown. So kudos for him for identifying that. And I think he had 2 other sneaks in the game, right? One or two more.
At least one. The art of the quarterback sneak is find the bubble, find that one vacated gap. And on one was the A gap to the left side. The other one, he kind of went down B gap. So usually you go A gap on a quarterback sneak, but because the Saints had pinched so much, Pickett with good recognition to kind of go outside and pick up the touchdown.
Only one pass completed more than 12 down the field, I think. Is that right?
Well, it was a big one to Deontay. I mean, that was a great throw. So credit there. And Deontay's longest catch of the year. So there were a lot of longest plays of the year in this game, which is what you want to see.
Right.
Anything else from the offense? I thought, O-line 6 sacks. I'll have to go back and see how much is on the line, how much is on quarterback. I thought the Saints were covering things pretty well, but I'll have to go back and check some of the tape. First time Pittsburgh's been sacked 6 times in consecutive games since 1989. The opener of that those terrible losses to the Browns and the Bengals. So not company you want to be in right now. One of a couple of key reasons why this team only put 20 points on the board. Thought stunt pickup needs to be better. Recognition from Dan Moore and Kevin Dotson in particular, I think, have to be improved. This team is not handling some of those twists in games all that well over the last three games over Miami, Philadelphia, and now New Orleans. So 12 sacks in 2 games, not a number you want to continue.
Right. Normally that's not conducive to a win.
Yeah, I have the stat in here too. Last time, where's it at? Give me 1 second. Yeah, last time Pittsburgh was sacked 6 times in a game, and 1 came in Ben's rookie year in 2004 against the Bengals. So it's about rookie years and quarterbacks and 6 sacks. Apparently that is the somehow the recipe to success.
Did you search that over time? How many teams have been sacked 6 times in a game and won?
I didn't, because I imagine that's probably happened relatively recently. I can check that now, but I imagine it's probably happened at some point this year or last year. Probably nothing that would sound all that earth shattering.
What was you don't know for sure at the last time when exactly the last time the 4 explosive runs for the Steelers happened, right?
I do not.
You have one instance of when it happened. You just don't know if that was the last time it happened, right?
Right. If you could find one between 1980 and I guess 1990, that would be the parameters you would have to look through, because that's as far back as the data goes. Was 1991, I think. The Steelers guy said, and then I found one in 79. So anything in between would be more recent.
Okay.
All right, let me find that stat here, because it's going to bug the heck out of me. If I can find the game result here. Last time a team won a game in which they were sacked 6 times. For the Steelers, it was 2004. And give me 1 second. Looks like it's happened multiple times this year. So yeah, Not anything crazy there. Okay. Any other final thoughts for the defense?
Or offense?
Or offense. I'm getting ahead of myself. Yeah, any final thoughts for the offense?
No, I think here's what I think. I think we need to continue to see, kind of this 60-40 snap count split between Najee and Jaylen Warren. Once again, I think Najee had obviously the better game, the more, especially on the ground, the more productive game. But I think both of these backs are competent in pass protection. I think they're both competent enough in kind of the chip and release game. They both can obviously catch the football out of the backfield. I think you need to see more of this kind of a 60-40 snap count split.
Well, I want to dig into the numbers more because Jaylen Warren is the primary third down back. And so I want to see what the actual split was on early downs and if that changed, how that shifted. I mean, Pittsburgh had 17 third downs in this game. So that could have been a lot of snaps there for Jaylen Warren. So I don't know exactly how much the split changed. It may have changed. I wouldn't be surprised by that in the least, but I just want to get some better numbers on that first. My overall thoughts in terms of what changed coming out of the bye. Again, there were no wholesale changes. You weren't going to make any dramatic, big sweeping adjustments, but you add more pistol to create the downhill run game. You throw in some slants. I think Najee Harris was trying to get more involved in the pass game. They flexed him out. They'd not been flexing him out wide much this year. Did quite a bit in this game. Had that target on that wheel route to him that he just couldn't come down with. So I just thought overall some minor changes schematically, and then, of course, most importantly, much better execution.
All
right, flipping over to the defense, one TJ Watt was back, and although he said his legs felt like wet noodles after the game, if that's a wet noodle game, we'll take it because Watt's impact felt right away. Still, quote-unquote, only 2 sacks, both from Alex Highsmith, but Watt, obviously, what he does to a defense and what he does to an offense schematically is undeniable.
I mean, just the energy right out of the chute, right? Crowd obviously into the game early. The first, snap that the Saints have is a false start there, and they're behind the 8 ball already. And then, TJ swims over and in on a tackle right away. You could just feel the feel the energy, his presence there alone. They're back to doing, the things that they want to do defensively overall. And, it obviously forced the Saints to pay a lot of attention to him over there on that side, even though I thought Ryan Ramczyk over there, I thought he played a pretty good game overall, to be quite honest with you. But he did have some help over there. And when you do have to help over there on TJ Watt's side like that, it leaves the other guys in there, more ability to win some one-on-one battles. Ogunjobi, I thought, made some nice plays. I thought Cam Hayward had a couple of nice plays in there. And, this was an offense, a bit of a surprise in their pregame kind of roster shuffling as well too for the Saints. Who they had playing center and left guard. I thought for sure Ruiz would get kicked over there to center, but they chose to kind of keep him at his more, at his better position, which was right guard there. But you look overall, and then I think the Saints lost their left tackle at some point. Was it second half or to concussion?
Somewhere around there? I can't believe James Hurst is still a starting offensive lineman. He's been in the league forever. He was like a bad lineman in Baltimore, but then Highsmith was just teeing off on the backup too.
Right, and Highsmith had a very good game, and obviously had a couple of sacks in this one, and a strip sack that unfortunately Steelers didn't come up with the loose football in that one. Highsmith showing off that Dwight Freeney spin of his. That's one of the better spin moves in the NFL right now, if you ask me.
Might be the best, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, it is. And his pass rush plan, his execution, ability to know. Because having the move is one thing, but knowing when to use it in critical situations to set up guys. You're rushing outside, then bam, hit him with the inside spin. Did that against Jets in Baltimore for a key third down sack. Hit it at least twice yesterday, one for a sack, one for a pressure. Great game. 6 pressures for Alex Highsmith in that game.
And, even more important is he's learning to, he's learned now to not just, he attacks the football when he gets back to that quarterback as well, too, instead of just going after, the quarterback there. So, not only is he getting there, he's getting the football loose.
Yeah, I just pulled up the stat right now. He has 3 forced fumbles this year. That is tied second in the NFL and tied first among pass rushers. The Seahawks corner, Kobe Bryant, somehow has 4 forced fumbles. Say that 3 times fast. But Highsmith among edge rushers first in football.
Man, a lot of people trying to downplay his play.
I know, we keep saying that.
I don't understand. What more do you want this kid to do? You know what I think it is? I think people are afraid that somehow, some way, by Alex Highsmith doing whatever he's doing this season is going to potentially impact this team not drafting that Alabama
Will Anderson.
Will Anderson. I think that's what all of this is rooted in. Look, Alex Highsmith can be good and can be praised, and you can still go draft that kid out of Alabama. This team is short, as we've learned already this season, and really the last, I guess, season and a half. This team needs 3 edge rushers for whatever, to either get some guys some snaps off the field, or B, if you lose a guy for multiple weeks to an injury, to have a competent guy to step in. I would have never imagined that we'd be sitting here with kind of the play that Alex Highsmith has had through the half point of the season, that people are trying to downplay it, I guess. And there's no other word for it, I guess.
I don't think it's because of Anderson, and if it
feels like it, because there just seems like there's all this hype right now, and has been for several weeks. The Steelers potentially getting Will Anderson in a draft.
They're picking 10th right now, so they're not going to get Anderson at number 10. They got to have probably a top 5 pick to do that. I think it's partially, Highsmith is not TJ Watt, and Watt has set the bar so high that anybody that doesn't reach that unbelievable Hall of Fame caliber level gets dinged a little bit. And listen, Highsmith's pressure rate still needs to be a bit better. He can be a little hot and cold. I mean, his sacks come in bunches. He's had 11 career games in which he's had at least 1 sack. 6 of them have been multi-sack games. So when they come in bunches. You want to see more consistency. He was awfully quiet against good left tackles the last 2 weeks in Armstead, Miami, and Mailata in Philadelphia, and he was whooping on some bad offensive linemen yesterday, the starter in Hurst and the backup, whoever that even was in New Orleans. So there is some context there, but still 8.5 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, the only consistent source of pressure this season, playing a ton of football, barely coming off the field. It's impressive.
And playing the run good too.
Yeah, playing the run well. And I mean, he's been a complete player. His game's elevated. His pass rush plan is fantastic. So I'm not knocking him, but I do understand some of the things you want to continue to see him grow in and be a bit more consistent. But overall, I'm not one to complain about his performance.
I mean, we said this is a year we want to see him hit double-digit sacks, right? And make sure to pray. If there's anything to probably complain about, it might be his pressure rate not being as high as probably you'd like to see it.
Right. So coming into this game, it was about the same as last year. He had 6 pressures in this game on not a lot of rush opportunities, considering the Saints had the ball for 45 plays. So that pressure rate probably ticked up a good amount. Want to see that going forward, and probably want to see him win against some more quality left tackles going forward.
Okay. All the talk about Taysom Hill leading up into this game, and man, I mean, that was one of my keys. I know, 5 keys to the game is don't die on the Taysom Hill, so to speak. There, they did a tremendous job on prepping for him, and I think even early in the game, you and I both at the same time pointed out TJ Watt, some mesh charge in there that we normally see reserved for guys like Lamar Jackson and those kind of things. I think they want to set the tone early that we don't care what Taysom does with the football, he's going to get hit. And in total, they didn't try to use him as much as maybe as I thought that they would try to use him in there. And I think Taysom Hill ended up with what did he touch the ball like 6 times or something like that? 1 yard.
Yeah, it's that Jerome Bettis line minus the touchdowns, which is where you want it to be. He did nothing. And then, of course, once you get that second half lead, really takes them out of their ability to use some of that Hill type packages, and that helps as well. But yeah, I think very blanket, obvious statement, taking away the Saints' best weapons. Chris Olave, 3 catches, 40 yards along of 14. Alvin Kamara did basically nothing, 45 yards of total offense. And then Hill averaged a third of a yard per carry. So their top 3 guys, top 3 weapons were total non-factors in this game they had to rely on. other guys to make plays, and occasionally those guys made plays, but the heavy hitters, the big names, did nothing in this game for the Saints.
That Olave is something, isn't he?
Really good player, great route runner, good hands, but again, pretty much a non-factor in this game.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the key, and the defense made plays. They got splashed. Levi Wallace, I thought the cornerbacks played really well.
Really well.
Cam Sutton, I think, had an underrated game in this performance Sunday. Levi Wallace, of course, basically creating 2 interceptions, the one that Casey picked off, and then Wallace's own interception, which was a great play, find the football and finish. I thought the corners held up on the outside. Millette, how about Arthur Millette?
Oh, man.
That's great third down play.
Man, that's teach tape right there.
100%.
And out of what kind of a slot fade, right?
Yep.
And you want to watch something about when people talk about, throw out the term stay in phase and playing through the pocket of the catch point. It doesn't get any better than that. I mean, because that you don't play it the way that he played it, and that's a big play in this game.
Yeah, I got a clip of that I'm going to post on Twitter. I captured it last night. I mean, we know that teams have been going after Arthur Millette, and Millette is now an every down slot corner. I mean, they did not take him off the field. I mean, Norwood does not come on anymore. And so teams have been going after him, and they have picked on him and had success. But slot fade, skies over you, play up through the hands, and it really just kind of sums up that one play, Arthur Millette's story. Stay in the fight, never give up, keep battling, and then on the way down, rips that football out. As you said, that is textbook. That is teach tape, and that was a great play. Big possession down win there for Pittsburgh's defense.
And as you pointed out, Levi Wallace very active in both of the turnovers there. How great was it to see DeMonte Casey? We talked a lot about being, and good thing he didn't let us down. We talked about how excited we were. Obviously we thought he was going to be part of a 3 safety package
Yep.
with Minkah, but props to him for basically not having his role change on him late in the week and being ready for it. And even on the stuff I think that was completed ahead of in front of him in kind of like more zone stuff, he was right there for the tackle. They had I think the Saints had 45 yards after the catch on 17 completions. So they did absolutely nothing, after the catch in this game here. And I think you charted it out that 6 or 7 plays with 3 safeties on the field.
Did I have that many? I guess that includes dime. That includes dime, doesn't it?
Right.
Okay, yeah. They only ran their big nickel package once in this game, so those plans kind of got scrapped last second. Right. But yeah, I mean, I thought Norwood might start this game because I just thought he was, been with his team longer, more reps. But I think even from a nuts and bolts conditioning standpoint, for DeMonte Casey to go from not playing a game since August and then rehabbing, recovering, and then playing in this game every single snap, did not come off the field in this game. So from a conditioning availability standpoint and playing at a high level, really impressive stuff for him.
Just think what this, you hate to look too far ahead, but just think and it's too bad they're not going to, or at least it doesn't feel like they're going to have Minkah back for the game against the Bengals. It sure would be nice to have to see how they could be able to utilize that. But good first game back for Casey. And he was, and you could tell by the comments that he made after the game that that man was glad to be back on a football field again. And I just think overall this was an instance of Russian coverage going hand in hand, right? And then, there were individually some good plays in coverage. We talked about the Millette. We talk about Levi and high pointing that, taking that football away on his interception there. But I think this is a classic case of predominantly of Russian coverage going hand in hand.
I think so too. And possession downs, again, Pittsburgh's offense great on third down, 9 of 17, and New Orleans offense miserable on third down, 3 of 12. And Pittsburgh, I had written coming into that game that Pittsburgh had been a really bad situational football team. Aside from red zone defense, they were near bottom of the league in third down offense, third down defense, red zone offense. Red zone offense still not good in this game, 40%, but 3 of 12 New Orleans was on third down. I just pulled up the numbers here. Again, 12 third downs. 9 of them were 3rd and 7+ in this game for the Saints offense. So you're winning on first down. You're winning on second down. You're putting the Saints team in third and forever. That's what allows your pass rush to eat, allows your coverage guys to make plays. And that was, to me, one of the big themes defensively of this game.
And I think really the only there were I guess about 2 times in this game where it felt like the Saints were going down the hill a little bit. One of those, fortunately, T.J. Watt killed off on a third down, flushing Dalton, and then unfortunately it wasn't a sack, but it was only a gain of like 1 yard or whatever there, tracking him down. That effectively killed that drive. Now look, the Saints helped out things with the penalties that they had in this game. Sure. Make no mistake about it there, but that's normally the Steelers doing that to themselves, and it's nice to finally see an offense other than theirs do it, against the Steelers that way there. But kind of a turning point, I guess, a turning point that kind of let the Saints back in this thing was the fair catch interference by James Pierre late in the first half. And then the Saints kind of took what they were given, I guess, more against some zone stuff on picking on Spillane's side on some out routes and all over there. And then obviously the shot down the field and the KZ penalty moved the ball in a chunk in that way. What did you see specifically on the touchdown?
It felt I put that on Levi Wallace in my charting. I know Spillane's underneath and maybe should have gotten more depth, but Wallace seems to have that deep third responsibility on that play. And it felt like some sort of divide route where Wallace's eyes are kind of being messed with, and there's some other post type route that's kind of holding him. I mean, it was a well-designed play, but I felt like that's probably most on Levi Wallace. I
thought the same thing, and I kind of harkened back to years ago when I think it was Cam Sutton on the outside or on the inside. Forget who was where against the Ravens, where they kind of ran that divide route for a touchdown over that. So remember that a couple years ago?
Right sideline, yeah.
Right.
Touchdown. I remember, I know what you're talking about, yeah.
Right. I kind of harken back to there. I know a lot of people probably, and I have not even looked at the defensive all 22 tape, but I thought the same thing that Levi Wallace should have been the one to break off and make sure that doesn't get done over the top on the sideline over there.
Yeah, and that can be tough. You're trying to play depth and divider and try to carry both, but there was help inside there, so you probably should have given more help outside.
Edmonds was inside, wasn't he?
Right. Someone was, and so Wallace probably has to respect that outside vertical threat where there is the help more. So again, I'll have to watch the all 22 and see exactly the coverage and the breakdown, but in my charting, I put that on Levi Wallace.
Okay, all right.
But overall, still, I think a good game for him.
After that, the Saints really didn't do anything after that.
Yeah, I mean, for whatever it's worth, 2 of the last 3 games, Miami, New Orleans, Pittsburgh, it's not allowed a second half point. Putting aside that Eagles game for a moment, I mean, they're playing well in these second half games. I wouldn't even say they're adjusting, but they're just executing really well in the second half. And yeah, aside from that 2-minute drill, New Orleans offense did nothing in this game.
0.000 explosive plays for the Saints.
Right. I mean, again, and they have big play threats. Kamara, Olave, Hill can be, he's got a 60-yard touchdown this year. Hill does. So, I mean, they can get the big play, and their weapons were non-factors in this game.
And this is a Steelers defense that had given up more than their fair share of explosive plays this year as well, too. Some of the right there among the league leaders in giving that stuff up. So I thought that was really, really monumental to people say, well, it was Andy Dalton and this, that, and the other. Look, they've I think the Saints have been around the middle of the league as far as producing explosive plays this year. So anytime that you or I don't care who the NFL team is, you shut them out in the explosive play category. That's pretty big, period.
And you know how many times Pittsburgh blitzed in this game in terms of sending a non-down lineman or outside linebacker?
I did not look, but it did not feel like a lot.
3. That was it. TJ Watt back, you rush 4, you drop 7. They did do some more 5-man rushes because they were playing some of their base personnel against Hill and stuff like that. But a 10% blitz rate in this game, that is partially the TJ Watt effect.
All right, I'm jumping the gun a little bit on this, but and unfortunately, the whole you don't know how injuries are going to go in the whole Minkah thing right now and all. How good can this defense be if they get all these guys back on the field? I mean, it does feel like a little bit too late type situation here, but you didn't even have Miles Jack on the field yesterday, and obviously didn't have Minkah on the field. But how good can this defense be if they get all these guys back on the field?
I think pretty darn good. I mean, the biggest issue Pittsburgh's had is getting those guys on the field together. I mean, Watt and Minkah played 64 snaps together this year. They can be a really good unit. I mean, their run defense from a yards per carry standpoint, that's a little antiquated, but it's like sixth in football right now. I mean, it's, they were dead last a year ago. They were giving up, 200 yards every single week, it felt like. So, I mean, this defense with Watt and whenever Minkah gets back and this group being healthy, how about the return of Larry Ogunjobi as well? I mean, that's big. I mean, out there playing some really good snaps and getting after the quarterback, I think playing some solid run defense. So if this group comes together healthy, it can be, easily a top 10 unit, probably better than that.
And Robert Spillane's never going to be a fan favorite, but I thought he did some good things out in space overall, and making some tackles in there. He's not going to win he's not going to win those option routes or those. He's going to get beat on those out routes and all in zone stuff and all like that. But as far as being a reliable tackler and that kind of, I thought it was an okay game for Robert Spillane.
Yeah, they ran a lot of option routes to Landry and some of their tight ends, and I thought Pittsburgh defended them relatively well. You're going to give up some yards there. It's the NFL. I think, Spillane in coverage, and I still don't quite understand why he's the dime backer. I do think the intangibles his team talks about, his communication, his ability to kind of, to carry the load in terms of getting guys lined up. I mean, this team has played really good assignment football, and that's intentional. That has to be, done. That it's not a given, not a guarantee in a game. And I think Spillane certainly has some of those intangible communication qualities that Cam Hayward talked about, that probably get overlooked by, even us, but is really important to this defense.
All right. When you get back all these guys, assume you get everybody back healthy on this defense. So that's gonna create a decline in snaps for Spillane, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, it would probably limit him to more just dime stuff. He's still going to be the dime backer, I assume, the dime linebacker. But when Jack's healthy, Spillane doesn't see a ton of time, especially because that 3 inside linebacker package is going to likely be scrapped.
I guess my biggest disappointment right now as I sit here today is it sure would be nice if Minkah would be on the field against the Bengals.
Right. And I doubt that's going to happen. Not going to say zero chance because it's Minkah, but doubt it's going to happen. One last note from the Steelers dime defense, Terrell Edmunds kind of used as a more traditional dime linebacker, really rolling down in the box. They had a couple of, different rotations with him, but played actually some kind of that actual dime backer role in this game. And
the closer he is to the line of scrimmage, the better player he is.
Yeah, and he had one of those blitzes, and so they're using him, creatively and spinning him to the deep middle or blitzing him. So just a small note there on kind of the role that he played in some of those third and long packages.
All right, so the main headline, though, is T.J. Watt returns, right, and provides big spark for this defense. And I think the second kind of defensive headline, probably 2A and 2B, was the play of Alex Highsmith and the play, specific plays by some of the corners in this game.
Yeah, I think the schematic play of the corners, I think the overall approach and game plan to taking away Kamara and Olave in particular, really important in this one in Pittsburgh, winning the turnover battle, winning on possession downs. Those are the stories being written coming out of this win.
All right. Special teams, unfortunately, probably the weakest unit for sure in this game. Yeah,
Matthew Wright's Steelers, I guess you call it debut for a guy that's been a Steeler before, but 2022 debut, not great. Misses from 39 and
48 or
48,
something like that.
I forget. Either way, both wide left, and that's not what you want to see. Now, I know that the first reaction Steeler fans will have is go cut this guy, go find a new kicker. Can you explain why that's maybe a bit more difficult than it may seem?
Yeah, when you sign a guy off of another team's practice squad, he has to hold a roster spot for 3 weeks. So he's yours right now. I guess technically, and I think Josh brought this up last night when we were chatting in direct messages. I guess technically, if you wanted to bring Skiba back to the practice squad and then elevate him on game day, you could do that, but you're still Matthew Wright has to hold a 53-man roster spot.
Right. So even if you cut him, you couldn't sign someone to replace that spot, correct?
Right. I mean, and I don't know if I've ever seen a guy technically even cut. I don't know if there's a rule on actually cutting him, because you still have to pay him. Right. I think a game check on top of there. So I don't know if there's actually a rule. I'll have to look. I don't know if there's actually a rule that says you can't outright just cut him, but if you were able to outright cut him, he still occupies a 53-man roster spot.
Right. This is not about just paying him. You have to pay him, and he has to have a spot on your team, either as a ghost player if he was hypothetically cut, or actually on your roster. So your options are either to sign a second kicker to the 53, or as Josh brought up, and probably much more likely is to sign somebody to your practice squad and play the elevation game with him and make Wright inactive. But it sounds like Wright will probably get at least one more chance against the Bengals. Yeah,
to hear Mike Tomlin talk, they're going to work through this with him.
And I don't know about the misses. I'll have to go back and check, but I know on the one that was made, there was a high snap from Christian Kuntz. I thought Harvin did a great job to get the hold down and make that that operation was not clean. It was slow, but Harvin, got it down pat and then kicked the field goal. So we'll have to see from an operation standpoint what issues there might have been as well.
Right. It looked clunky. A lot of the battery exchanges, if you will.
All right. And then, Pierre had the penalty, which, I mean, I guess is the correct call.
He's trying to find,
the guy ran into him.
I know. It was kind of that I understand why it was called.
Yeah.
But he's trying to find the ball, and the guy kind of comes up last minute, and Pierre's trying to find, I've seen a lot more flagrant stuff than that.
Yeah. Can the return guy just start running into gunners like bowling pins, and can they just call that kick catch interference? I don't know. It's the right call, I guess, letter of the law, but I was a little annoyed by that. Thought the kick coverage was a little shaky, especially early, a couple of decent. I know there were some holds. The Saints are holding the crap out of those guys. There was a punt early where I think Connor got held and they didn't call that, but thought maybe the coverage stuff could have been a bit better.
I agree.
But all small potatoes, I guess, in the grand scheme of things. Any other final thoughts here? Again, 20 points. You still want to see more than 20 points, but it felt like a really quality game in which your offense had just 20 points.
It felt like there was, as you mentioned, the time of possession overall. And yeah, they should have had more points because of the field goals. And I thought once again they left a touchdown on the field with him not throwing one of those quick releases to Pickens down there up top there. But it was a win, and I don't care if they're ugly or not. And there certainly aren't going to be a ton of style points overall for this win, but they beat a team that they were supposed to beat, in my opinion. They beat them.
Yeah, I mean, there aren't many games where you're assuming or expecting heavily a Steelers win. I mean, that was one where we thought they were going. If there was a game they were going to win, it was going to be that one, just given the circumstances of the Saints being on a short week and Pittsburgh off the bye and things like that. So you never get too comfortable in these games, but one you felt like Pittsburgh could have had, and happy to see them walk away with a victory.
Right. They won a game they're supposed to win. And I think there's going to be more of those games, moving on past the Bengals game and all like that because of who they play. We talked about the Panthers, the Falcons, the Colts, even though congrats to Jeff Saturday, especially on the heels of Bill Coward undressing the Colts organization, so to speak, in the pregame and all like that. And he pulled the old switcheroo on the quarterback, and hey, and I know it's a bad Raiders team and all like that, but they got the W.
Will the Steelers end up facing 3 teams the rest of the year that have fired their head coach? It's already 2 with the Colts and the Panthers. Will McDaniels be next? Is that going to be a record to face 3 teams that have fired their head coach over
That's a good
I don't know,
point.
7-week span or something like that, whatever it is?
That's a good point. I suppose it's probably, they're not happy in Vegas right now, obviously.
No, they are not. Yeah, I mean, my guess is McDaniels stays at least the rest of the year, but I'm watching that one. I have a stat of the weird maybe for that one.
What do you think when this game got 10-10?
I mean, it was hard to tell. It was a bit disappointing going into the half. You're up 10-0 and it's 10-10 in the half, but you felt like a 2-minute drive. The Saints get a little bit going. Could they sustain that? I still felt okay.
I kind of wondered if I had my doubts at that point. I thought, they let them back in it, you know. And
all Denny Green on me. Let him off the hook.
Yeah, let him off the hook. And that first half, Pickett, I didn't think Pickett was all that sharp in the first half there. But they won it.
Yeah, they played well in the second half, and again they kind of just grinded that game out, kind of like the Tampa Bay game, where they kind of finished that game out, didn't give the ball back to the opposing offense. So again, 200 yards on the ground, time of possession, take care of the football, get big plays, get pressure, play assignment sound defense. That's the recipe for victory. Yeah,
once again, my optimism is short lived because I really wanted to see the truth. I want to see Minkah and Casey and Watt and all these guys play against the Bengals. I'm looking too far ahead.
And for the fans who are like, oh man, they lost this game, they have a worse draft pick, be happy. It's a victory. Yeah, I understand.
I can never root for. It's not my DNA to root for stuff like that. Never has been.
And at the risk of making a very obvious statement, when the Steelers win, that means good things happen. I mean, I get in the sense that if they lose, you get the higher pick. But if you win, that means probably that somebody played well. And that those are probably more encouraging signs to have victories, which means the line blocked better and maybe Pickett played better or the receivers did better or the defense did better than having a 2-slotted higher draft pick. So whenever they win, that means it's probably things that you can take away for the future that are going to be more beneficial to this team than a draft pick that's, pick number 7 as opposed to pick number 10.
The Pickens touchdown. What'd you think about the call?
I mean, it's a classic Canada call. They run that a million times in training camp. I mean, that's a play they ran in some of the goal line 7-shot stuff, fairly often. And just, heads up play by Pickens, as he talked about, supposed to be more of a traditional jet sweep, get to the outside. But you see end zone, you find end zone. Nose for the end zone, Pickens diving ahead. Good job by him.
Yeah, good decision by him.
Anything else from this game? Any other final thoughts here, Dave?
I think we've chopped it up as good as we're going to chop it up until we get a better look at the all-22 here.
All right, Dave, let's get to some reader emails and close out today's show.
All right. I still got your charting up here that I've been studying this morning.
I do have to resend that. I forgot to add the no plays to that. That's a very minor thing, so just be aware you'll be getting a new Excel sheet there.
Okay. IR versus cap from Jim Bendis. Quick question or perhaps confirmation. When a player goes on IR, is it correct to assume that their per game salary is charged against the cap? Yes, it is. Now, you do have some players, especially, like fourth round draft picks or later, or any undrafted player like that. They normally have a split salary, what's called a split salary designation in their contract, meaning that if they go to IR, they get a lower rate, lower per game rate. But once again, it's usually like fourth round draft picks and later in like their first and second years kind of things. And usually all rookie undrafted free agents have split salaries in their contract. But for anybody else, like a veteran, signed to a big contract, yeah, if those guys go to IR, it's a full game charge for their salary there.
Real quick before we go into more of the emails, Chase Claypool in Chicago, not working out too great over there, is it?
Yeah, they're Matt.
I mean, the offense is good. I mean, they're putting up points.
Yeah, Matt. How you pronounce it?
Yeah.
Uberus.
You got it.
Yeah, Uberus or something. He said something to the line of, they're trying to build up Claypool's role and and different. I caught something on that late last night, but I can't imagine. I can't imagine trying, not being able to figure out how I don't get Chase Claypool more than 2 targets in a game.
Is Matt Canada ghostwriting their conferences over there? We're just working to get better. And 1 catch for 8 yards he had. I mean, again, the Bears offense put up big points. So, I mean, they're not too mad about the overall structure of it, but they're 3-7. Their season's over. So they got Claypool for the rest of this year to do nothing with, and they got him for next year, and then he'll be a free agent. So again, we asked the question, why did they trade a 2nd-round pick for this guy?
Yeah, good question.
Brian Pringle played more snaps than Chase Claypool. Don't understand that, but that's not my decision.
I didn't look at this. How many snaps did he play?
I think so. I'm reading the tea leaves on some stuff here. Let me actually get the official.
Yeah, you got me.
Stats.
Look, you got me.
19 snaps, which is not many. 31% for Claypool and Pringle. Who I kind of like, but Brian Pringle played 20 snaps. So yeah, Pringle played more than Chase Claypool.
All right, back to the email machine we go from Jalen Brown. Hey, guys, I'll try to be concise. Went to the Steelers-Saints game, and I have to know, was there a clear adjustment made in the second half? Who covered Johnson for the Saints? Because it felt like besides that one drive, Spillane got exposed on the team. Other chose different personnel to cover, or the Saints just neglected to find they're talking about Johnson the tight. He's talking about Johnson the tight. Yeah, Juwan. Also, can you realistically take a brief look at where you see the needs for improvement on the line versus being satisfied with the performance, or at least encouraged on growth for some guys that are holding spots? If that wording sucked, I'm pretty much trying to figure out how long you evaluate on the line before you decide his time might be up as a starter. I'm not sure who he's talking about specifically on the offensive line there. Look, they got hit with a couple of stunts that they didn't handle well at all up front.
Yeah, they've struggled there starting against Miami, and I think teams have picked up on that. Pittsburgh, defensively, were running a lot of stunts in this game, so both offensive lines struggling in that regard. You have the rest of the season, so you're going to evaluate the rest of the season. There are not going to be any changes made there, barring injury, so that's your evaluation time. In terms of Johnson, I mean, I get it, but it was 2-minute drill stuff. It was short stuff. It was choice routes. They're tough to cover. Aside from the touchdown, it's hard to really get too mad at how the defense played that thing. And again, once the Saints weren't in 2-minute mode, weren't getting, consistent plays, weren't in a rhythm, they were falling behind the sticks. It really kind of took some of those shorter choice routes to Johnson and others out of the picture.
Okay, let's see here. Let us go to Larissa. Nice win, but questions. Hi, DNA. Great coverage as always. Always looking forward to your podcast. Great win by the Steelers. Najee ran forward, which is a good step for the running game, and defense played hard the entire game. I don't want to seem like a Debbie Downer, but this win proves that we aren't the absolute worst team in football. We are the best of the worst, regardless. Several points. Last week, I was adamant that play calling and Matt Canada were the problem, and Kenny Pickett was a rookie, but on his way to great things. This week, Pickett looked lost, hesitant, and inaccurate. His timing was incredibly off, even with open receivers. I thought his accuracy and cerebral qualities were his main selling points when he was drafted, yet he looked very off versus the Saints. I really do think that Kenny Pickett is on the way in his future, but he really needs only experience, blah, blah, blah. Playbook like a college student, in the same with off season in his room studying the playbook like a college student, and same with the entire offense. Just sit, study, and read defenses and build up confidence and timing with receivers. Also, what I don't understand is this: we have a great route runner in DJ and a great catcher in George Pickens and a decent quarterback. Why are the majority of plays all gadget type plays as opposed to just going with nice, crisp passes, even dunk and dunk? It seems like gadget. I just, it doesn't feel like it's gadgets that are hitting, right?
I mean, that's always going to be part of the flair of the candidate offense. And to his credit, there were some nicely designed plays. That screen to Steven Sims was a well-designed play. They got some good yards on that. And again, there was more that the slants that we saw and things like that. So I think schematically, I'm pretty happy with how that game was called yesterday.
I mean, outside of Larissa saying that, and look, Kenny wasn't sharp, but his ability to take off with the football was sharp.
Yeah, and that's an asset. And Tomlin talked about that with rookie quarterbacks. When they're struggling, they can use their legs to kind of mitigate some bad situations, and that's certainly positive.
I think he's still trying to grasp some of the things that he's seeing. Maybe some post snap type rotations and stuff. I think he's still struggling with, and there were a couple times I thought he should have let the football go, and I don't know if he's just trying to be, just overly cautious at time, but he's going to have to learn that what NFL open is and trust. He's got to have the trust that he's got to let some of these go, and his guys are going to make the catch on the other end over there. It wasn't an awful game by him. I thought the second half he calmed down a little bit there overall, and we talked about the out and up to Najee, and that ball was on the money. I thought a couple of the slants he put right on the money in this game as well too. You don't like to see the throwaways that he had, but they are what they are. They're throwaways. They're not putting the ball in harm's way. And I thought the deep ball down the right side, to Deontay was a nice throw in those situations. So we talked about recently about not seeing so much of the swings with him, right? And I think maybe this was more of a game where you didn't see so much of the swing in there.
I think so, but I think it was consistently wanting more. It wasn't, you want the swing. You don't want the swings, but you want higher level of play overall. Obviously, we all understand that.
Right. You just want more plays. Okay, you eliminated the swings. Now you just want the higher variance and the lower variance to go in more in a positive direction with it. Yeah,
you want to play a consistent B+ game as opposed to a consistent C- game or whatever letter grade you want to ascribe it to. I think, I know that Pittsburgh has pushed the ball downfield, and there is probably to a large extent a false narrative that they don't push the ball downfield. And even Ben has talked about that, I think, incorrectly. But I think something he said that is probably pretty true is that Pickett, either someone's telling him or he just recognizes it, being a guy that's thrown 8 interceptions this year. Take care of the football. I can't turn the football over in a game like this. It's tight and contested. The Saints, they turn the football over. Let's let them make the mistakes. We can't make the mistakes. I think Pickett's saying, I don't want to be the guy that loses the game, that screws things up, that has that back-breaking play that changes the course and the momentum of a game. So I'm going to be super conservative and just make sure that I'm not making mistakes because I've made too many mistakes so far.
Look, one thing we've talked about a lot since the bye week, playing from behind and having to watch him play 10, 14, 17 points behind. You know how many snaps he played from behind on Sunday?
I'm going to play spoiler here and answer it for you, 0.
You would be correct, sir. Alex,
what do I win?
You're moving on to the bonus round here.
What is the bonus round? Nothing. I got to look up more stats. The bonus round is for me.
Yeah, I mean, how good was it to actually see him play a whole game on a more level playing field here?
Yeah, so with a run game,
with a run game, and the other thing we talked about going into the second half of the season, want to see him get better in the red zone.
Yes, I think that's the biggest takeaway. Things to work on. Again, Pittsburgh 2 of 5 in the red zone. They finish these drives. They're not going to break that 20-point ceiling until they get better red zone play. And the
only other thing is you'd like to see him be able to complete more balls past the 10, 12-yard spot down the field.
Right. Yeah, with you there.
And he didn't turn the football over, and that's always a good thing. Let's see. Troy writes in a few questions. Is Najee overrated with what Jaylen Warren has been able to give this offense? Should he be the primary back or at least see 60% of the snaps? Is Najee even top 10 running back in the NFL? I know Dave's stance on the running quarterback position, which I do agree with, and I understand the draft capital, blah, blah, blah. Having Najee plays a role in playing time. I just don't see the play-making ability in Najee like we've been seeing in Jalen. Number two, with what we currently know about Will Anderson Jr. out of Alabama and is tremendous talent. Do the Steelers draft him and not extend Highsmith? Alex Highsmith has improved quite a bit over the year. However, with Will Anderson, blah, 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 upside, Highsmith's coming out of college. Do you make the play in this draft? Thank you guys for all answer the second portion first here. I'll have to look at what their cash versus, cash expenditures are with the whole 89-90% rule and all like that. Why not both? What's the meme? Why not both? And look, the likelihood of that probably happening is probably not as great. But and obviously the draft will come before they have to make it, really. And let's not forget that Highsmith has another year after this year. So you could actually, if you wanted to, you could ride him and then decide, after his final contract year, what you want to do there, franchise tag him or whatever. But I am a big fan, Troy, of thinking that you can never have too many great pass rushers on a team. So once again, if it economically and feasibly work out where you not only draft a guy like Will Anderson or Will Anderson, and you can extend Alex Highsmith, I don't know why you wouldn't want to do that, because you'll have a guy like Anderson, obviously, on his rookie contract, and assuming that's first round, that comes with a fifth year option, yada. I would not be opposed to where we sit right now. Now, do I think whether or not I think it'll happen is two different things, but I would not be opposed to not only extending Highsmith, but drafting a guy like Will Anderson as well.
You are the long lost son of Bill Parcells, I'm pretty sure. I
am.
Don't know how that works mathematically, but we'll trust that's true. I'm not opposed to it either. I mean, Anderson is probably going to be the best player in this draft. Putting positional value aside, he may not be the first pick, but I think he's probably going to be the best player in this draft. So I'm never against drafting or considering drafting the best player in the draft. The likelihood Pittsburgh's going to almost certainly need a top 5 pick to do that. They're not there right now, but they're going to need, and I've talked about this for a long time now, they need at least a competent, strong third edge rusher, and that is most likely to be acquired through the draft. And maybe that's not going to be a first round guy, but it's going to be, I think, a day 2 type of guy to really give this team depth at one of its most, if not the most important position, aside from quarterback, on this team.
All right, back to portion number 1. Is Najee overrated? Blah, blah, blah. Look, Najee was the better running back as far as run success and better runs overall than Jalen Warren was in this game on Sunday. Now, they both can do, I believe they both can perform at the same level. And we obviously saw what Jalen Warren can do with a football in his hands, in passing game as well here too. I mean, is Najee overrated? That's
people were calling him Trent Richardson for the last month, so I don't think people were rating him all too highly. And then the guy has his best game of the year. I'm not going to come in and start talking about how overrated the guy is. I thought he ran well the way that he needs to. So, I mean, I don't think so. I think he had a really good game, and I'm going to just kind of enjoy that. I do want to see that Jalen Warren 21-yard run, because the camera crew missed it, right? They came back where they cut really late, and I think Warren had already picked up the first down, or I missed it at least. So I want to go back and watch that one to close out that game. But I'm just enjoying that both guys ran well, both guys made plays. Warren did well in the pass game, and that's what I care about.
Troy, I'll leave you with this. I wouldn't mind seeing, both of them getting time on the field with obviously Najee probably getting a greater amount of snaps there. I think you can work out some situation where you, in turn, kind of keep guys fresh, and hopefully you get into late game situations like you got in against the Saints, where you can grind out the clock on the ground like they did.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I think both those guys will continue to play and hopefully continue to be assets for this team.
If you guys had this is from Jesse. If you guys had a couple of questions for Colbert to answer about his time in Pittsburgh, maybe when he releases a book in 5 years, what's some stuff that you've always wondered? Thanks, guys. Love the podcast and content. Following the whole Depot team on Twitter. I just want to know what's on that index card on. If the draft board is an index card of about 25 with 50 names on it, but 25 being break glass in case of emergency, if the 25 aren't there. It's gotten to the point over the years where Alex and I can come up with a pretty decent list of names, based on what they look for, measurables, where they go. And I don't know how predictable it is for other teams across, the NFL, because we obviously don't follow them near to the same degree there. But I really want to know what that draft day index card looks like.
Yeah, don't hold your breath on Colbert ever writing that book. I would love him to, but I don't think he's got writing plans in the future. Maybe I'm wrong. He was back in Pittsburgh. Yeah, well, he lives in Pittsburgh, but he was back with the team, the Hall of Honor. I should mention that quickly as well. They honored the 2022 inductee. So Heath Miller was honored along with the family of Myron Cope and Sam Davis and Ray Matthews. Louis Lips also officially inducted after being chosen last year. So that was pretty cool. With Colbert, I don't know what I would ask him. I'd have to think about that. I just want to hear stories. I mean, I like to hear about the 04 War Room, the decision between, the old story that they were going to take Sean Andrews, and then Rooney comes in and says, we're taking Ben. I just want to know about the evaluation process and maybe hear some of those stories about actually how they ended up kind of maybe pivoting or just choosing Ben in general. But I would just let the guy talk and just absorb it all.
Yeah, and Mike, another question I would have probably wouldn't be well received. Just how bad did they panic on Artie Burns after?
Yeah, you shouldn't open with that question to Kevin.
Yeah, that might be a closing question there. But was it? I guess how I would try to frame it was the directive to get a long cornerback with measurables. That much of a directive that kind of, it felt like a forced decision, a forced pick.
I'd also like to ask, what's your process for physicals with players? Because Pittsburgh's getting really good at getting guys who are very injured and realizing that after they made the trade. I mean, William Jackson with that back injury, reportedly he'll come back later this year, but I mean, 30-year-old corner with a bad back. I don't know what you're doing.
And I guess the conditional swap of picks is out the window now because of probably related to playing time in William Jackson.
Right. So, I mean, essentially, you got the guy for nothing aside from paying a salary this year. I mean, so again, like I said, when the trade initially happened, I can't be too mad at that, but I didn't like the trade and it doesn't look any better right now.
I'd like to know maybe about I'd like to know about that conversation of selling the handful of beans to Mike Mayock.
Oh, that is a good one. Yeah, I want to hear about those AB and Martavis Bryant discussions.
Let's see.
How do you think that conversation went? Do you think Colbert just went, they're doing this? Oh my God, they're actually doing this. Let's do this right now. This is incredible. I can't believe they're doing this.
Yeah, I would more than a few times like to have been a fly on the wall for some of these trade. Look, the Claypool conversation. I wonder how many other calls and how those calls went.
Right, Jalen Hurts should be a Steeler right now. He thought he was going to be a Steeler. So how about that?
All right, I think we've got through all of them here, Alex. At about I don't know, what are we, an hour and a half again?
Yeah, about that.
All right, you and I will be. Let's see. You are going to do the YouTube live stream. I'm not going to. I've got a doctor's appointment, so I'm not going to. But you'll be taking that on tonight, right?
Yes, it'll be at 7 p.m. Eastern time for an hour. Just me tonight, so you'll have to suffer through, listeners. My
actually, they'll probably look forward to it.
No, I got a YouTube comment saying that someone hated my voice and I have to auto tune it, so I'll be going all 2008 DJ, club sounding voice for you guys tonight.
All right. All right. Let's see. In the
Yeah,
meantime,
I didn't leave you in a good place on that one. I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's better than my voice. But anyway, we will be back on Wednesday reviewing the All 22, starting to look ahead to the Steelers. Week 11 home game against the Bengals, all the good stuff that goes along with that. Injury reports, Mike Tomlin Tuesday, recapping that. Whatever happens on this Monday, we'll recap what players said and that all that good stuff there. So you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. You can follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate to the cause, SteelersDepot.com, ton of content up but by the time people listen to all this, it'll probably be the last 48 hours, but a lot of stuff going up on the site. Dr. Mel's got her post up there about William Jackson. Make sure, not William Jackson, Minkah Fitzpatrick, Fitzpatrick. Make sure you stop by and read that as well too. But appreciate all the support. Fantastic weekend. And let's see, as I mentioned, donations, SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button. Also, if you want an ad-free version of the site, SteelersDepot.com, hit the ad-free button, upper right navigation bar. So until Wednesday, good job, Alex. As always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.